Trump's censorship campaign. FCC Commissioner warns of press freedom threats. Imagine a world where government pressure forces a major media company to ditch its commitment to diversity and self-censor its news to avoid backlash. That's exactly what's unfolding with the recent $8 billion merger between Paramount and Skydance. And it's got people fired up about the future of free speech. This deal isn't just about business. It's highlighting how political influences might be chipping away at the core principles of press freedom, making you wonder what else could be at stake in our media landscape. Jeff Bennett, the massive $8 billion tie-up between Paramount, which owns CBS, and the Hollywood outfit Skydance, is stirring up a storm over First Amendment rights and casting a spotlight on how the Trump administration might be pulling strings behind the scenes. The Federal Communications Commission gave the green light last week in a close 2-1 vote that split right down party lines. This approval happened right on the heels of Paramount shelling out $16 million to settle a lawsuit filed by President Donald Trump, stemming from a 60 Minutes interview with Vice President Kamala Harris at the time. FCC Commissioner Anna Gomez was the only one voting no, and she didn't hold back in her criticism, labeling it as a cowardly give-in that could dangerously alter the entertainment world and undermine press liberties. She's here with us today to dive deeper into this. Thanks for joining us, Commissioner Gomez. Anna Gomez, appreciate you having me on. Jeff Bennett, we'll get to the specific threats you see to First Amendment protections in a bit. But first, let's break down the timeline. You pointed out that the FCC only okayed this merger after Paramount agreed to that $16 million settlement. On top of that, they made some big changes, like dropping their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and bringing in what's called a bias monitor at CBS to keep an eye on things. How do you connect all these dots between the settlement, those concessions, and the FCC's decision? Anna Gomez, I see this as yet another move in this administration's ongoing effort to clamp down on speech and exert control. Let's lay it out clearly. We know the president went after Paramount because of that 60 Minutes piece. Then the FCC piled on with their own pressure over the same thing. It wasn't until Paramount settled that lawsuit and agreed to those concessions, wiping out all their DEI efforts and installing this bias monitor that's basically set up to self-police content based on what the administration deems acceptable, that the merger got approved. But here's where it gets controversial. This kind of setup could encourage more companies to cave under pressure, potentially stifling diverse voices in media. For context, DEI policies are meant to promote fairness and representation in hiring and content, ensuring that stories from all backgrounds get told. But here they're being sacrificed for political reasons. Jeff Bennett, so, in your view, how does the government's involvement here cross the line and start endangering press freedom? What exactly about this situation is setting off alarm bells for you? Anna Gomez, a couple of things really stand out. First off, the FCC decided to dust off an old complaint against CBS related to that 60 Minutes segment, even though their own experts had already concluded there was no solid evidence or legal ground to stand on. Just to clarify for anyone new to this, the issue was about how CBS edited an interview with Kamala Harris, showing a shorter version in one broadcast and a longer one in another. They trimmed it for time, which is a totally routine practice in journalism to keep things concise without changing the facts. But this got blown out of proportion, labeled as news distortion, and turned into a tool for pressuring CBS. That pressure then fed into Trump's lawsuit, leading to these concessions. And the bias monitor is a big deal because it's essentially promising to filter content to align with the administration's preferences, where bias seems to mean anything they disagree with. This could mean audiences miss out on critical reporting, like in-depth investigations that challenge those in power. Jeff Bennett, Okay, putting that into practice, if 60 Minutes were to run a tough investigative story on the Trump administration under this new setup, what might happen? Would this bias monitor require pre-approval of the content? Or is it more like having an ombudsman in a newspaper who handles feedback and ensures accountability? Anna Gomez. That's a sharp question, and it's one that raises some uncertainty. From what we know, this monitor reports straight to the president and is tasked with handling complaints about news content and programming. The details on how it operates aren't fully clear yet, which is concerning in itself. But the bigger issue is enforcement. If the FCC gets involved and starts dictating what can or can't be aired, it's stepping way over the line. Remember, the First Amendment is designed to keep the government out of censoring broadcasters. It's a fundamental protection for free press. If the FCC ends up reviewing and restricting content based on complaints, it could directly conflict with that, potentially violating both constitutional rights and the laws governing communications. And this is the part most people miss. Self-censorship, even if it's voluntary under pressure, still chips away at free expression because it discourages journalists from pursuing the truth without fear. Jeff Bennett, the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, defended the approval by saying something along the lines of, "People don't trust the traditional news media to be fully accurate and fair anymore, so it's time for a shift." That's why I'm on board with Skydance's promise to bring in a range of viewpoints from different political sides. What risks do you see in that approach? Anna Gomez. Well, let's not overlook that this administration has spent years actively undermining trust in the media, so using that as a justification for more regulation feels a bit off. The First Amendment exists to shield speech and press from government meddling. We don't get to tell news organizations how to do their jobs or make editorial calls. If we start allowing the government to step in under the guise of promoting diversity of viewpoints, it could open the door to subjective control, where only certain perspectives are favored. But here's a controversial counterpoint to consider. Some might argue that ensuring a balance of opinions could actually strengthen media credibility. But at what cost? If it's enforced by government pressure, it might stifle genuine debate rather than foster it. Jeff Bennett, you've mentioned that you have a solid, open working relationship with Chairman Carr. How does that play into how you handle disagreements within the FCC? Anna Gomez, Chairman Carr and I get along well on a day-to-day basis. I'm straightforward with my thoughts, and he's the same, so we have honest discussions. That helps when I'm raising red flags about issues like this administration's attacks on free speech and press freedoms. Our professional rapport doesn't stop me from speaking out when I see problems, because at the end of the day, defending these principles is crucial for the agency's integrity. Jeff Bennett, if this merger is part of a larger pattern threatening First Amendment rights as you've described, what steps can people take to fight back? And in your position, what are you doing to protect press freedom and keep the FCC independent? Anna Gomez. It's all about pushing back and not staying silent, because giving in only encourages more of the same. We need everyone, viewers, listeners, companies, and institutions to stand up against these tactics. For example, supporting independent journalism or voicing concerns to regulators can make a difference. On my end, I'm committed to highlighting these issues in FCC proceedings and advocating for decisions that uphold our constitutional duties. Courage in the face of pressure can inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect. Jeff Bennett, are there other FCC matters on the horizon where you worry about similar kinds of ideological influences or tactics being used? Anna Gomez, absolutely. And it's tied to how this administration is using the FCC's licensing powers as a weapon. Whenever we're looking at license renewals, mergers, or station sales, there's a risk of demands for concessions that lead to censorship. Self-censorship, whether it's forced or voluntary, undermines the First Amendment. And I'm concerned it could lead to more companies prioritizing profits over journalistic integrity, leaving reporters vulnerable. Jeff Bennett. Drawing from history, there are examples in other countries where media regulation has been used to suppress opposition or mold public opinion in authoritarian ways. Do you see any parallels emerging here in the U.S.? Anna Gomez, it's a valid concern, and we can't afford to let this become standard practice. Speaking out and resisting is key to preventing that slide. After all, protecting our freedoms starts with awareness and action from all of us. Jeff Bennett. FCC Commissioner Anna Gomez, thanks for sharing your insights with us. Anna Gomez, thank you for the opportunity. Jeff Bennett, just a quick update. We've been in touch with Chairman Carr's office and are set to chat with him later this week to get his take on all this. So, what do you think? Is this merger approval a genuine threat to press freedom? Or could it lead to more balanced reporting in the long run? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Jump into the comments and let us know if you agree with Commissioner Gomez or if you see it differently. After all, open dialogue is what keeps democracy strong. The inside story, how Larry and David Ellison secured the Paramount deal. The story of how Larry Ellison and his son David Ellison managed to secure the monumental Paramount deal is nothing short of fascinating. And it sheds light on the intricate mix of family ties, political clout, and strategic business maneuvering that shaped this game-changing merger. At the heart of it is David Ellison, a dedicated movie producer who has cultivated a close connection with Paramount over the last 15 years. But there's more to this alliance than just Hollywood relationships. His father, Larry Ellison, brings immense wealth and political influence to the table, which played a crucial role behind the scenes. After more than a year-long wait, the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, officially approved the $8 billion merger between Paramount and Skydance Media on a Thursday, exactly 383 days after the deal became public. This merger, expected to be finalized on August 7, will catapult Larry Ellison, now 80, and his 42-year-old son David into one of the most powerful duos in the entertainment industry, giving them vast influence over television series, films, news outlets, and much more. David Ellison holds the titles of Paramount's chairman, CEO, and owner of half the voting rights, placing him at the helm of an entertainment empire boasting over 1,200 film titles. This collection includes recent hits like Top Gun: Maverick and ambitious projects like a modern remake of the classic It's a Wonderful Life. Beyond movies, the empire encompasses distribution rights for an additional 2,400 films and boasts popular channels such as MTV, Nickelodeon, Showtime, and CBS News. Yet, when it comes to financial control and ownership equity, Larry Ellison remains the key figure, according to various regulatory documents. His role might have been even more pivotal in tipping the scales toward the merger's approval than previously understood. The deal wasn't without its hurdles. It only secured the green light after significant compromises were made by both parties. Paramount, for instance, agreed to make a $16 million payment to former President Donald Trump in July, designated for his anticipated presidential library. Resolving a lingering lawsuit concerning a contentious edit of a 2024 interview with Kamala Harris aired on 60 Minutes. Shortly after this settlement, CBS announced it would be ending the politically critical late-night show hosted by Stephen Colbert due to budget concerns. Meanwhile, Skydance Media had to commit in writing to embracing a diversity of viewpoints across the political and ideological spectrum in its programming, and to adopt measures aimed at eliminating bias that has historically eroded public trust in national news media, per the FCC's announcement. Control dynamics shifted significantly throughout the process, especially concerning voting rights. Initially, in September 2024, FCC records revealed that Larry Ellison, co-founder and CTO of Oracle and the world's second richest individual, possessed all voting and equity shares in the Pinnacle Media Ventures holding companies that were acquiring the Paramount stake. These shares were held within his Lawrence J. Ellison Revocable Trust, the same trust responsible for his Oracle shares and extensive real estate holdings valued at approximately $1.5 billion. Besides this, the Ellison family owned a commanding 67% of the equity and 78% of the voting rights in Skydance, partly through Sayonara LLC, a parent company overseeing the Pinnacle entities. Larry, known for his passion for Japanese culture and architecture, uniquely named Sayonara's 3 subsidiaries with Japanese words: Aozora, blue sky; Hikoki, airplane; Furaito, flight. But by October 2024, filings revealed an important amendment. The voting rights were restructured so that David Ellison alone held 100% of the voting interests in the Pinnacle entities, while Larry retained equity ownership. This arrangement hinted at a deliberate separation between control and financial stake. However, yet another adjustment surfaced in mid-July 2025. David's voting rights in the post-merger. Furthermore, the Ellisons possess another 6.7% equity stake through Skydance Entertainment Group, although how exactly this breaks down between father and son remains unclear. A strategic alliance between Larry Ellison and Redbird Capital, an investor holding 22.5% of voting rights and connected to David's Skydance since 2020, could politically block David's initiatives if necessary, illustrating the complex balancing act of power within this new empire. According to industry insiders, the reshuffling of voting rights is less about control and more about tax considerations. Los Angeles-based mergers and acquisitions lawyer Alex Davis, uninvolved in the deal, explained that while David Ellison will hold voting control through his entities, Larry is positioned to reap the tax benefits. This kind of financial structuring to optimize taxable outcomes, especially regarding losses and depreciation, is quite common in large-scale mergers. Attempts to gather comments from Skydance, Redbird Capital, David Ellison, and the FCC prior to publication were unsuccessful. Speculation also swirls around the potential impact of the political landscape. With Donald Trump's return to office in January 2025, the timing of the deal seems more than coincidental. David Ellison had met both Trump and FCC Chair Brendan Carr before the merger's approval, and notably contributed about $1 million to Joe Biden's 2024 re-election campaign earlier in the year. Meanwhile, Larry Ellison and Trump maintain a long-standing relationship. Larry was present at the White House during a major announcement of Trump's $500 billion Stargate AI infrastructure initiative in January. And Trump publicly expressed openness to an Ellison-led acquisition of TikTok, extending the platform's sell-by date to September. Larry Ellison has promised significant changes at CBS, a Paramount-owned entity, potentially influenced by Skydance's recent pledge to discontinue diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs, an announcement that could prove contentious in today's social climate. Trump himself praised Larry Ellison's leadership and business acumen at a July rally, reinforcing the Ellisons' increasing sway. On the technology side, Oracle, the software giant Larry co-founded, is reportedly negotiating a contract for Paramount and Skydance to run on Oracle-powered cloud infrastructure, projected to be a $100 million per year deal. To put that in perspective, it's a modest figure compared to Larry Ellison's towering net worth of over $290 billion, fueled by annual pre-tax dividends exceeding $1 billion. When it comes to David Ellison's personal fortune, much remains deliberately opaque. At Oracle's IPO in 1994, Larry gifted 90,000 shares to a trust for David and his sister Megan, who were toddlers at the time. Based on Oracle's tremendous growth, those